Welcome to the Founders Code, the most authentic podcast for startup founders. I'm Shamil, founder at Fluid Labs, and here's the question that keeps me up at night. Why do we as founders willingly walk into chaos? The stress, the self-doubt, the endless decisions, and still we keep jumping back into the game. If you've ever asked yourself why, or just want to hear what it's really like behind those polished LinkedIn posts, you've come to the right place. This is a space for real, vulnerable, and honest conversations with founders who've been through the fire and are still climbing. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Founders Code podcast. This week's guest is Raghu Gollamudi, a serial entrepreneur who's now raised over $7 million with his latest venture and is building Included.ai to help companies make the best decisions people-wise in their companies. Hi, Raghu.
Hey, Shamil, how are you?
Thanks so much for coming into the show. It's incredible to have you.
Likewise.
To start with, maybe many people don't know about this, but back in 2012, you've had your first experience of dipping your toes into the founder's chair with a startup called Mingles. And it fascinated me because I was working at a very similar idea called ClickPick of bringing people together around similar interests, that exact 2012 kind of timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go back and walk us through that experience?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't expect that question to come in, but perfect. Yeah, good segue there. So I'm an immigrant. So I moved from India to US and working here, focus on career, right? So you come here, you're educated, you want to focus on career, you want to make money, and you want to send home, you want to send money home and all the good stuff. So in that mad rush, you forget about your personal life. And then what ends up happening is as you get older, you become picky, choosy, like I want this kind of a person, all the good stuff. And it took a long time for me to meet my wife, Kavita. And I was like, okay, I went through the struggle. Is there a way to make it easy for folks like myself who are looking for a partner or a companion? How to make it easier, right? And this is pre-Tinder era. So you said 2012, this pre-Tinder era, right? So that time, the concept I had was birds of the same feather flock together, right? So if you're interested in certain activities, depending on passion and interest, you go to certain places and you see similar like-minded people there. Like if I like to go to gym, I see folks in gym who are like-minded people, and it's easier for me to meet folks there. So the goal was even this at that time, even location-based proximity was not even a thing. My concept was how do I now I go to a library, I'm sitting in a library, I'm reading, and I want to meet like-minded people in the library. So the goal is how do I know that others exist around there? So the concept was like check-in. So you go to a place, you check in, other people would check in, and now you start seeing them, and then now you can swipe left and right to say whether you're interested or not, because you're still, I'm a shy guy. So I don't want other person to know that I'm interested. So only way I want them to know is if they're also interested, then say, voila, there's a match. Right. So similar to Tinder kind of a thing that came up like 3 years later, same concept, but super location based, activity based, and interest based cohorts with a check-in mechanism to know they exist, and then swipe right, swipe left to show the interest. And if there's matches, then boom, now you are matched and you can have conversation. So once the matches happen, now you're confident. You know what, that person likes me, I like them. I don't need to be intimidated. They need not be intimidated. Now let's start having a conversation. So that was Mingles.
And at that time, you were probably looking at the competition. And I remember from my SWOT analysis, there was Meetup.com, City Socializer,
Yes.
these kind of companies.
Yes, Meetup was the main thing, and also this other thing called speed dating, right? So you just show up there, you sit in a chair, you meet people, and then now you talk about your interests, they talk about their interests, and matches, then you take to the next level, right? So you have those kind of things, but nothing that is digital and make it easier, and you can scale it, right? So that was the challenge, and that's what I try to solve for.
I also used to think like, oh, we're going to revolutionize this and Meetup's going to die within like 2 years.
Yes,
Look at Meetup now, still standing strong.
exactly. But the thing is, like, from Mingles came Tinder, and I was like, damn, man, I wish I had actually followed through the whole thing.
Should have patented the scrolling, the
Exactly.
swiping idea, right?
I think that's the different ways, right? And check-in. So the check-in idea came from Foursquare. Foursquare
Yeah.
was that company that allowed check-ins and all the stuff. So the idea came from there. So it's a mix and match, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So there are ideas that have been solved, the problems have
Yeah.
been solved. Now, how do you take those things and create a workflow around it and come up with your own solution creatively? That's what I did with Mingles.
When you were a kid, did you have any hunches about, oh, in the future I'm going to be working on startups in the US?
No, now as a kid, I was like job and career and education was the last thing in my mind. I was like, how do I have fun? How do I enjoy the moment, live the moment, right? So, born in India, and we're not rich. We're from a humble background.
So not Gujarati, not from Gujarati area.
Not from Gujarat. I'm from this area called Chennai,
Yeah.
so the southern part of India. Pretty
Yeah.
warm weather and all the good stuff. The thing is, from a humble background, I did not have a TV till I was like 13 or 14 years old, and at that and no phone, no cars, nothing, right? So pretty much, you got to talk to people to entertain yourself, right? So my experience was through people, meeting people, and doing stuff. Knowledge base was essentially learning from others, learning from your experiences, learning from failures and success and all those things. So that's how I grew up, and that's when so startups and ideas and all the stuff were not the goal. The goal was how do I get the best out of the time I have as a kid, right? So that's what I did. In fact, I still remember, like, when I was a kid, I never used to be home. I used to always be outside, playing with friends, doing all kinds of stuff. And my mom used to like come out every day at like 6:37, yelling at me, saying, "Come
Same.
inside, have lunch or have dinner or whatever be it," right? So that was a life I spent. I really loved it. I mean, I have very good, thick friends from my school, from my college, and also from my neighborhood, and I really cherish that. And I see a dichotomy right now because now kids are like stuck at home. They have their video games. They're on digital devices, and initially I was a little bit of a naysayer saying that that is not the right thing. But I think world is evolving, so we also should evolve. Our thought process needs to evolve. And when I see my daughter playing video games with some random strangers on a first shooter level game, but she's having fun, right? So that's also a trait and a skill to learn how to talk to strangers and how to be able to express yourself out and still live the moment and have fun and learn from the experiences. So that's the dichotomy I see, and there's nothing right or wrong. It's a way of life. That's how I look at it.
Interesting, because I would always think that our strong suit was that we have a lot of that social experience in our childhood. We would spend all our time outside, like
Yes.
until 9. Our parents didn't know where we were, what we were doing, and we would be mingling with other people, like developing our leadership capabilities, like portraying social roles. And then look at my younger brother, who would spend like all his time sitting like Minecraft or Roblox at the time. Like, he's not developing those social skills. But at the same time, there is a different kind of social ecosystem that they have over there. And
Yes.
now if we look, the world is more like online. Even us recording this podcast online,
Exactly.
you know, it's probably they're probably developing the right type of the social skill, right?
Absolutely. I'll give an example, right? So before pre-COVID, all sales were happening in person.
Yeah,
All fundraising was happening in person. And now you can I raise all of my money not meeting anyone, right? Everything's on Zoom, right? I'm selling not meeting anyone. I don't travel anymore. Everything's on Zoom, right? So that's the evolution, natural evolution. So it's all about how do you become more efficient without, and how do you lower the barrier, right? So in the when I say lower the barrier of entry, what I mean by that is that previously I need to have a lot of money because I'm traveling. There's expenses and all those things to make a sale, to do what I got to do for daily
yeah.
operations. Now everything's happening on Zoom, so I don't need to raise so much money and still have the same outcome. And that is going to get even more. I would say you'll see the impact even more with AI. So now the barrier of entry is going to be even more low. I don't need to have like 10 people team to build something. I can build with 2 people. So
Yeah.
that's how technology innovation and all those things are going to help, is reduce the barrier of entry and still be able to get to your vision and deliver on your outcomes and goals.
Actually, an interesting topic. You're one of the people on the podcast who has a very strong technical background. What do you
Uh,
see with the use of AI tools, with the whole vibe coding
uh,
generation?
yeah, I
What's your
mean,
experience been?
So I do have technical background, but I stopped coding for some time. I still do some level of coding. Like anytime my CTO says that this is going to take a long time to do because it needs to get productionized and everything, and I want some crawl,
Let me show you.
so let me go and let me jam, let me code and get it done. And I use all my AI tools in place to help me that, right? So there is proof of concept, get something out quick. That's where AI is very useful. The minute you want to now a lot of people are going to use it, they like it, and now it needs to be robust, it needs to be resilient, it needs to scale, it needs to be performant, all that good stuff. When that comes in, that's called productionalizing that particular piece of code. AI can be your companion, but that is not your go all and all. You still have human in the loop. They need to figure out whether the code is working or not. They need to test for all of these things, resiliencies and all the good things. And when things break, ask AI for help, but that's not going to solve everything. Eventually, it'll get there. But, but right now, where the LLMs are, in the end, it's an LLM model that's more focused and localized for developer experience, right? So that aspect is not gone to the extent where it can write code automatically. It can still write code, but it's going to write like 10,000 lines of code. And now you need to have somebody looking at the code, understanding whether the code is going to work or not, right? So that's also work for someone. So it's very critical to know how to use it in the right way. So be more prescriptive, saying that I'm going to write this function that's able to call an HTTP request and getting something and convert it. So bit by bit, use it that way. And then eventually, when the models get much more better, that's when you'll start seeing widespread disruption. Like I can just go in. The ultimate utopia is that a product manager will write a spec, and the code interpreter would come and read the spec, design the whole system automatically, generate the components, generate the code, and say, "Here you go, it's ready to use."
So it's
Right?
almost going to be like prompt engineering, but
Yes,
exactly prompt engineering.
exactly, prompt engineering, and your product spec is your prompt because you give the spec, right? And then eventually, what's going to happen is actually prompt engineering is an art, right? So it's not giving instructions, it is letting the LLM know what questions to ask for clarifying questions. So usually my prompts are, hey, I want to do this thing at a high level. I start with a two-liner and I say, you ask me questions, clarifying question. When I say you LLM, I say, hey LLM, ask me clarifying questions. So I start giving you more and more details, and then you give me the final prompt or the response I'm looking for. So I'm letting LLM ask me questions on what my goal is, my context is, and that's how it's learning and it's able to generate the final outcome. That's how I use the prompts. I don't instruct it. My only instruction is instructing it to ask me questions. That's
And I
how I
think
use it.
that's the smartest way to use them because a lot of people don't even know that they can do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Another cool thing I found was you can ask it to act as a different person, and it would pretty much like activate a different side of its neurological brain,
Yes.
and
Yes.
actually perform better as a certain person.
Absolutely. I'll give an
As an
example,
organization.
right? In even in my company, we are a people analytics company or HR analytics company, human resource analytics company, and there is so LLM has a wealth of knowledge base on everything, including human resource aspect, operational aspect, right? So now, if somebody says, "Hey, what is the health of my organization?" It's a very very generic question, right? So now uh, let's say that I'm the end user, I want to know the health of the organization. I might not know all the best practice questions and the things I need to look at to know the health of the organization. But that is being done and dusted. People have figured it out, and LLM has learned that. LLM has crawled the web and it has all the knowledge. It might be that, let's give an example. I'll give a fake company. Let's say not. Let's say Google. In Google, health of organization means you need to look at these 8 or 10 metrics. In Facebook, it might be looking at 12 different metrics. So what LLM does is it has all this information now, is bringing back to me and saying, hey, if your end customer is asking for help of the organization, these are the best practice metrics that everybody looks at. Now I take those metrics, I have the data for the metrics. I just need a plan. I need to know what metrics I need to look at. So once I get the plan, I execute the plan on my platform, right? And then I get the result. And I go back to LLM saying that, hey, this is where the question was asked. This is my result. Summarize it in a nice way so that it's easy for somebody to read. right? And that has been a super hit for among our customers. They're loving that.
When you were starting Included, were you planning to use LLMs to do all the heavy lifting to make it like
Now,
AI first, or did you have to pivot somewhere within the cycle?
yeah, actually, we had to pivot in the sense like we were AI first from the day one. The only difference is that those AI models were in house. We built it, right? So we had our own classification model, we had our own NER models, we had our own text generation model, everything. But then it was a lot of effort to do that work. Like every time you need to change something and change the text, change the way it words things out, we had to train the model a lot. Now with LLM, all that extra work that we're doing is gone. Now we're handing over that piece of work to LLM, right? So because LLM is good at that. So it's very critical to understand the roles of every component within your stack, right? So what we decided is that LLM is good at knowledge base, LLM is good at narration, LLM is good at getting benchmarks. Like, I want to know what is the attrition rate benchmark for fintech organizations. That information is already there in the web. LLM is already crawled in. So I don't need to create all this super set of data in my system. In runtime, I can say, hey, LLM, this is my company, this is my customer, fintech customer, they are asking for attrition. Go browse the web, tell me what the attrition rate star what benchmarks are, and then compare against it and tell me whether they're doing good or not. Right now, suddenly you got all of the power that, and in the end, when you're giving some information to your to an end user, saying that anything, right, it can be like my marketing conversion rates are 5%. Is that good or bad? Right? I need to know it's good or bad. So I need to compare with something else. So the comparison now, LLM knows what is good and bad because that information is already there in the web. It knows the benchmarks, it knows everything. So all you got to do now is take your data, take the benchmark data, the knowledge base from LLM, and then narrate a story. Because LLM is good at narrating a story. It'll say that, hey, your attrition rate is 20%, but for companies in that same industry, it is 25%. So you're doing good. That is critical, and that's the power of LLM and how we are harnessing the power of that and providing value to our customers.
And now the information is not as subjective, I would say. Like before, you would probably pay for some research to make sure that, or interview those customers to get their attrition data. And now you're pretty much getting the real data that was somewhere out there, and it's aggregated, assimilated, and then there you go. This is the real one. So it's pretty much like LLM objective.
Exactly, right?
That's
So
right.
the research has already been done. The research has already been published. LLM has already crawled and learned. Now the question is, how do you use that data? How do you ask LLM to give that information to you? And that's what we have done with Included.
And can we go take a step back um, to you joining Microsoft? How big was that an event for you, getting accepted to
Yeah,
Microsoft?
great questions. Uh, Before Microsoft, I was working for this company called Commerce One, and this was in Bay Area, and it was a high flying startup, and this was in 2000s. And 2000s was like it was the startup mecca, right? So you're seeing all the stocks going to like $3,000, $4,000, and reverse splits, and everybody like floating on paper money. And I was like, I need to get into that train, right? I'm not yet. I'm a consultant. I need to get into the train. So I joined this high flying startup, Commerce One. And trust me, the company was doing excellently well and life was good. 3 years, they shut down, right? So, and then that's when it stuck to me that, okay, I'm getting close to 30s. I don't have a retirement account. I don't have any savings. I'm going to the startup mode. And now let me get into a stable job and let me start first learning from from corporate world because I was fresh out of college, shoved into startups. So I did not learn what does it mean to work for a corporate American company, right? What does it mean to like wind your way through politics and still get your voice heard and still have an impact, right? So those are all it's an art and you need to learn those things. And that's when I decided, okay, let me join a Fortune 500 company. And I was super happy and thrilled when I got an offer at Microsoft. and I was there for 10 years, and I was in different roles. And one of the major roles was managing their Xbox Live data. That was a pretty challenging work that I had to do. So it was more like both supply chain and Xbox Live data together is what I had to manage, and built one of the, I would say, world's largest distributed computing platform using SQL Server and in-memory database. So did that piece and learned that. So my career progression was more like, think about it like you have a 10-lane highway, and when I started off my career, I was in one lane, which is get yourself good at something, right? Coding, be excellent at that. And then as I matured in that, I was like, how do I impart this knowledge to others? So I slowly started venturing to the other lane, which is more like a managerial and leader lane. And then now I was in these two lanes, managing these two lanes, and then came, how do I go beyond that, right? How do I understand the impact of my product? So till date, I'm building a product, and next is, why am I building it? Who wants it, right? So till, if you in a corporate culture with the structure, you have product managers and program managers in one vertical, and you have developers and providing those coding and experiences in one vertical. So there's only, you only talk between them both, you never talk to their customers, right? And I was always fascinated, how do I, can I just jump over this hoop and talk, I'm building the product, I know who's going to use it, I better get to know what they want, right? Let me directly go to the horse's mouth and understand it. Why do I need a middle person to tell me what to do, right? So slowly I started learning that piece, and then came, okay, now I understand what customers want, and next is, how are they using it? So getting into the customer success standpoint, I built a product, I've thrown it out there, now how are they using it? So learning that piece. So slowly I was expanding my lanes. So I started off with one lane, slowly I went to the second lane, which is leadership, then into the other functions, and then finally now I'm owning the whole company, right?
Yeah.
So my whole learning through this whole process is, you don't need to know how they're doing the job, but you need to know the person who knows how to do the job well, right? At a high level, you understand this is what is marketing, this is what is sales, and all the good stuff. But the thing that really matters is identifying the traits of people who are good at the job, so that when I start my own, I'm able to bring in people with those traits so that they can excel, and that way the company can excel.
And what are those traits that you found out?
So main thing, I mean, it all depends on where the company is and all the good stuff, right? So that is experience trait. So this one is experience trait. You need to focus on experience, because when you're at scaling stage of the company, you need to bring in somebody who's scaled the company. You cannot bring in a company, a person who's going to be much more like, let's figure out how to get stuff done kind of a thing, right? Because at that stage, you need somebody that knowledge. Where I am at my stage as a C stage company, uh, getting to the scale part is, can I bring in somebody who's hands on, roll up the sleeve, who's not afraid of sending emails and creating an email campaign, outbound campaign if required for sales, or from marketing standpoint, who's not scared of writing content, right? Writing content, understanding what the customer wants, talking to the customers, and doing that. So and the way I look at it is that initially you don't need those people. Initially, your product leader is a person who's thinking that way, right? The product leader is like, hey, I built something, I see value, let me tell others what I built. So writing content around it. Similarly, from sales standpoint, it was me who was doing all the sales till I brought in my salesperson, right? So I was literally like sending out emails, doing so. Everybody can do everything. The goal is, do you have the ownership? Do you have a problem solving mentality? That's the critical thing. When there's a problem, is that going to excite you, and are you going to go into this mode of, I'm going to solve this problem, as opposed to, oh, this is not my headache, somebody else should take care of it, because I'm more of managing and not doing it, right? So key thing is ownership, being able and being passionate and excited because when you get problems, so that you're solving it, and then showing the impact of it, so that, and making it repeatable. So when you realize that I'm able to do this on a repeated way, now how do I expand that, how do I scale it? So that's how I look at that. Doesn't matter which function you're bringing it in, those are the traits I look for. Is like, are you able to take a problem, are you able to dissect the problem, are you able to come up with solutions, and are able to try it fast, A/B test it out, and then get to the solution.
I think every founder that's listening right now is thinking, okay, how do I probe for the quality of people taking ownership of their role and solving their own problems when you only have like an hour during the interview? Because it's hard to look at the resume and think, okay, that person takes ownership, but then during the interview, without having to hire them and spend 2 3 months looking at them, what kind of questions do you ask to check for ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very transparent, right? Interview processes will only get you to certain level, and the main thing is when the rubber meets the road, right? Because people are smart, like they know how to answer to questions the way you can pose the most convoluted, complex question, and they know how to answer, because that's they learn. It's a learned behavior, so they know how to answer those kind of questions. The challenge is, so that I do two ways. Um, from Let me put a percentage. Interview is 30% weightage, 70% is in when they come to work. So it's not a 30, 60, 90-day plan in my company. It is like 15 days, 30-day plan, right? So you got to move fast, because money is always going to be a constraint. Every day you're spending the money, like your runway is going down, right? So question is how fast you can audit what the person is doing in the first 15 days and see whether they can sustain the need of the company in the long run. If you feel that they're not the right fit for that, you need to let go of them. In the sense, like, it is not that they're bad. It's just that for your company, for your needs, they might not be the right fit. They might be a great fit some other place. Human beings are amazing. They're intelligent people, right? Question is it the right fit here? Like, I might not be a great day trader, right? But I might be a good long-term investment guy. So I might be a good fit there. So people might you need to people also need to realize where they're a good fit. They might have aspirations saying that, you know what, I worked in this, I myself too, right? I worked in Microsoft for 10 years, and then I got in as a CTO at Shippable. It was night and day different, because in Microsoft, there is there's no barrier for money. Budget was there. All I had to do was succeed. I could fail million times and still I can succeed because there is money there, right? In startups, you cannot do that. So here I come in at Shippable, and I'm only used to Windows. I'm used to like editors and visual editors and all the stuff. And I come here and I get a Mac, which I've never used in my life, and I get a terminal window, and this is my view into everything development, right? And I was like, it took me like 2 months just to learn how to use all these tools and everything to get productive. And it was pretty intimidating, because I did not realize it was a heavy lift for me, given I was like what, 35, 36 when I joined Microsoft, when I joined Shippable. And my whole experience has been in visual editors, everything visual, and now all of a sudden I've been asked to code with nothing. And you have GitHub, you have your tool, and done deal. That's it. There's no help, nothing out there. So internet is your help, and you got to figure out how to succeed. So
And this is pre-chat GPT.
this is pre-chat GPT, right? Pre-chat GPT. And I had to solve a problem. There's a problem of me learning all these things, and I have to solve the problem that the company has. So, like, flying the plane while you're building it, kind of a thing, right? So, and the technicians are new. They don't know even how to build a plane, right? So they don't know how to use a tool to build the plane. That I was like that. And I succeeded. So it is very, very critical to what I'm saying. These are all outliers, right? There are people who have the the passion, and they're like, you know what, I want to go into a startup and prove myself, because they're tired of corporate culture and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that they can be successful, because it takes a different DNA to go from this let's say cushy life, means a successful, nice career, which is well taken care of and well fed and well bred career, to something where there's nothing out there and you're in the wild and you got to sink or swim, kind of a thing, in the ocean, right? So that is where that mindset is very, very critical, and you'll get to know that within 1 or 2 weeks of the person being in the company. So I look for those kind of traits, and if I see that they're able to swim and they're able to go against the tide and they're ready to fight and do it, all in. Like, I will arm them with what is required to succeed. But that is what I look for in the first 15 to 30 days. Yes, it is a drainer. It drains the resources, it drains time, because time is the most critical thing. But it's very, very difficult to prove it otherwise, because interviews can only take you to a certain level.
And what would you say is different if we compare Raghu before joining Microsoft Shippable and after that, before starting the startup?
Got it. Great question, right? The way I look at it now is not the problem that I'm solving, right? Because I've solved so many problems in life, and I can say I've been there, done that, in solving problems. Yes, this is a different problem I need to solve. Now I'm more focused on the impact that I'm having with my customer base and with the audience, with my customer base, right? Because I can solve a problem with does not have any impact. It's a great problem to solve. I can go in, I can do it, but if there's no impact, that's useless. So now it's all about what impact that I'm building has on my customer base.
How
Like,
does it show in your actions?
yeah, the way it is interesting, right? So the way it shows in my actions is twofold. One is listening to our customer pain points, and one more thing, the challenge is, do you want to build to what your customers are asking, or do you want to build to the underlying pain they're facing, right? That is the challenge. And so I'll give a classic example, right? So if you look at the whole analytics space, right? What I call them as, they are faster horse carriages. And the reason I call them as a faster horse carriage is because the problem that the customer said is, it takes me long time to create a dashboard and a report, right? So you see tools like Tableau and Power BI and all these tools out there that helps you create dashboards and reports fast. But that is not the problem that the customer has. That is a symptom of a pain, right? The pain is, I want insights, right? And today, the way the customers are getting insights is, they get a dashboard or they get a report. They'll say, "Oh, I see this report like this. Let me put a filter clause here and say, show me all the high performers who left last year or last month." Now they are doing the analysis, so they want a tool on which they can do very fast analysis. Right? But still, they're spending a lot of time on analysis, and all the tools that got built is to help customers do faster analysis. And a customer will never have time to analyze every aspect of data, right? So actually what the customer is asking for, or the end user is asking for, is, can you automate the whole analysis for me and tell me where the issues are, so that I can focus on them and I can focus on strategies, as opposed to bringing this data together, stitching it together, then doing this analysis, and then me getting to know that aha moment. Oh, people are leaving at director level so fast, very fast in our organization, because they don't see growth, right? If that is the aha moment and that's the insight, today it takes roughly around 8 to 24 hours to get to that insight. And the tools that I've created are all helping you get to the insights in 24 hours. Prior to these tools, it used to take 36 hours or 40 hours. Now with these tools, it's taking you to like 24 to 30 hours, right? What I'm saying is, you need to get those insights automatically within a minute. That is what I've created included. Understanding the underlying pain, and then solving for that pain, as opposed to the symptom. Like, it's not, I don't want to reduce fever, I want to understand why I have fever, right? So that's what, so people are solving for, how do I reduce fever, and not why do I have.
Can you tell me about those early inception days of Included? How did you come to the idea? And
That's a great question, right? So when my previous company, Integra Software, where I was a co-founder and CTO there, we sold that to OneTrust. It's a data privacy company, and OneTrust is the number one company today in data privacy. And when I sold that, at that time, that coincided with the murder of George Floyd. The nation erupted on that, and the goal was, how do you bring dignity to life, right? That's the main thing. And I was like, how do I bring in that same kind of dignity to workforce, right? And one of the biggest challenge at workforce is, there's no visibility into what is the experience for different demographic segments within the organization. That visibility is not there, right? And what you saw was, initially when George Floyd was murdered, and the transition that happened in enterprises was, they started hiring DEI leaders, diversity, equity, and inclusion leaders. That was the fastest growing C-suite title in all over the US, right? And the problem for them is they don't have tools or any way to know what is going on. They were just brought in and they said, solve it, right? But they
Especially
don't have
with companies like 8, 10, 20,000 employees.
exactly. So you bring in a person, asking them to solve it. They don't have the tools, nor they have the data, nor they have the insights to figure out how to do it. And so now they were brought in, and now they had to work with people analytics team. So it's a shared resource, right? The people analytics team today is already inundated with a lot of requests from business stakeholders, from your CHROs, from CEOs, and everything. And now this is an added work to them, right? So these DI leaders were not being successful anymore. They're like, they were there, but no help, not much help. So that's when I said, okay, let me create a product that can analyze the data. So this is where the analyzation came. It's all about analysis, right? Are women getting hired at the same rate as men? Like, how do you answer that? You have to analyze the recruitment funnel. You need to see how many applicants applied. You need to see how many women and men went to the next stage. What is the rate of progress of different demographic candidates through the funnel? So all that complicated work was done by our platform automatically, right? And then we gave them the answer saying that, hey, you know what? Women are less likely to get a job. Are, when I say less likely, like percentage, women are 30% less likely to get a job in your organization because of XYZ reasons, right? So we were giving those kind of insights. Fast forward 2 years, our existing customers were like, hey, you're giving these insights for DEI. Can you also give me similar kind of insights for whole people analytics? Because this is the exact thing we want other places, right? Then we were like, yes, let's do it because we already have the underlying platform. I'm a technologist. My CTO is an amazing technologist too. And my Chandan Gola, who's my co-founder and product lead, he was like, boom, like, let's do this, right? And so we took the platform over and we forked and lifted it and we started doing it for more enterprise-wide people data. So now you can go to a platform and say, hey, tell me the health of my organization. And we give you a readout, which no one else does. We give a beautiful readout talking from what your headcount is, what your headcount growth looks like, what is happening with your management levels, all the good stuff. And the best part is tomorrow, let's say that there's a different CHRO in one of the fast growing companies or forward looking companies. They come up with a plan for health of the organization. Our platform will automatically learn from that because LLMs are learning from that. Our platform will automatically learn from that and say, hey, you know what? This is a new set of metrics that we need to look at, or this is the additional two more metrics we need to look at to understand the health of the organization. LLM will give that automatically, and then boom, we will go in and we'll start executing and show that result. So that is the beauty of what we.
Nice. And when picking co-founders, was it just friends or somebody you worked with who decided, there's this good idea, let's do it together? What were the qualities of the people you were looking for?
Okay,
In that
so
sense?
one of the biggest, I would say, biggest strengths and weaknesses in me is I'm a idea generation machine. I every day I generate like a dozen ideas. Right, that is my biggest strength, and the weakness is that every time the new idea is always better than the other idea. Right, so that is my big. My wife is tired of hearing two ideas. She's like, you're always coming up with ideas. So the thing that I'm learning as a founder and as a human being is now, how do I stick to an idea and how do I make it successful? Like, that is the biggest challenge. I think I heard this from a great investor saying that, hey, I have a million ideas and I can sell you an idea. I have $1 million billion ideas and I can sell you each for $100, right? Because ideas are diamond doesn't easy, but how do you execute, right? How do you come up with go to market? How do you understand the challenges? How do you make sure that your customers like what you're building? Execution is where the rubber meets the road, and that's the most difficult thing to do. And so that's where when I would say look out for my founding team and looking for people who are interested in execution, who are good at it, who can weather the storm, because in a startup you have lots of downs than ups,
Yeah.
right? Who can weather the storm, who's perseverance, right? They need to be able to go through the process, the grind. And that is what I look from my co-founders. And it's initially I thought I can do alone everything by myself. And I thought that you don't need salespeople, you don't need marketing, because if you're a good coder, you build a kick-ass product, it should automatically sell because value is there, right? But then later, as I started running the company, I started realizing that yes, you're building value, but nobody knows that you're building value, right? Because everybody are saying the same thing. Everybody are saying they're using AI. Every faster horse carriage is saying that they're a aeroplane.
And can you talk about that experience? When was when you've realized that just being a founder, doing everything yourself is not enough? You have to try. And how was the try on hiring first people, kind of giving them object KPIs,
Yeah,
managing? How did it go?
yeah, yeah. My first hire was CTO, right? And that was the most difficult hire because I was a CTO before, right? So I'm like, I wanted somebody like me or better than me to drive. And it was very, very difficult to find somebody who aligns with my thought process. And that's why I realized that I should not hire somebody like me. I need to bring in a person who brings a different perspective. Right? Having different perspectives is very, very critical for anybody's success. It takes a village to get there. And if everybody have the same skill set in the village, then you don't get there. Like if everybody knows how to dig a well, all they do is dig, right? They cannot create they cannot create a good what to say foundation and all the good stuff. So you need to have different skill sets to dig a good well and get water from it. Similarly, what I realized is that yes, I have my skills as a CTO, but I need to bring in somebody who has a diverse skill set coming in. So Constantine, who's my CTO, amazing dude. He knows how to productionize stuff. He knows how to break a complex problem into smaller ways to get there, right? And similarly, same thing with Chandan Gola, my co-founder, CTO, Chief Product Officer. He's been building products and customer experiences for customers. He's built experiences for customers, right? Now, how do you bring employees also are like your customers? Now, how do you bring that kind of an experience for employees? Now, that is an amazing skill set to have. So we are revolutionizing everything when it comes to people analytics. So that's how I think about it. Like we're going to revolutionize this game. What kind of skill sets I need to bring in to revolutionize the game, right? It's a long game. It's not going to happen overnight. So bringing the right set, bringing the diverse mindset people in and getting there is what is critical. So Laura Close, my third co-founder, she's also our business development officer. She was an expert in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So she was in a grassroots moment, right? Movement. So she was in college, like she fought for things. She went and she fought with government, like she like going into your municipal or local city council and fighting for something, right? So you need to have that mindset too. So all those three, like that's how I created this group of my co-founders. So we three are like the dynamites, and different people bring in different strengths, and we're able to work together to that ultimate vision of
And
included.
how quickly did you see results coming from these
Uh,
different directions?
oh yeah, so from DEI when we initially launched it, I mean, Laura Close was able to totally resonate with DEI leaders, right? They were speaking the same language, right? So it is pretty awesome to see them gel and understand and build a trust, right? What I realized is building technology is one thing, and building trust and empathizing with your customers is more important than technology and how, right? Because you can figure out how to build it. How is easy. How to build a technology, you can bring in the right set of people and do that. But empathizing with your customer, understanding the pain points, and building trust with them is the most difficult aspect in a company building. And that's what we are doing right now, is building the trust with our customers, empathizing with them, and then showing off the product and how we can help them. So my initially when I started Included, every sales demo was, look how cool product I built, look at this feature, it is amazing, right? Like, and then now it's more, now the product is not important for me at all. It is, hey, tell me the challenges you're facing, tell me your day in life, right? And then slowly transition into, hey, how we can help you. Product is just one aspect of it, right? So what I believe is, your tool, product is not even a tool. A tool will only be successful if people are using it. Now, how do you drive them to use the tool? How do you educate them? How do you show value of the tool, right? So those are the things that now the focus is more on, is driving adoption to the tool, and not just giving a tool and saying, here's a faster horse carriage, go figure out what you want to do, right? We're not doing that, right? So now what we're seeing is good uh, analytics product usually see roughly around 3 or 4 people using the product every month or every week. We are seeing like 10 to 20 people in a like 300 people organization using every day, which is an amazing metric to show. Yeah. So again, as I said, what is my goal at this stage is impact. Am I having an impact? Are people using the tools and the knowledge base that we are providing from Included standpoint? Are we helping them achieve the strategies, achieve them, maintain or build a strong workforce? Right, every person in the organization uh, has value that they can provide to the organization. Understanding what that value is what my goal and the impact for this tool and the knowledge base that we're providing is.
To make a strong founder, you've mentioned that you need perseverance. And perseverance is one of those muscles that is getting built in very difficult and challenging situations. Um, what were some of the hardest moments where you were really close to giving up? And what helped you stay on course to get up, keep fighting?
Great question, right? So for me right now, I mean, I did not have, I would say I had a thought of giving up, I would say in the first 1 year of the company. And now I don't have it because now I'm looking at the people I've hired. So the thing that gets me going every day is I have a team, they're passionate, they believe in the company, they believe in the vision that I've laid out. And now how do I make sure that they are being taken care of? Right. So that's what gets me going every day. It's not about money and all the stuff will make it. That's not a that's a byproduct. The question is how do I make my team feel valued on what they're delivering and what they're doing, and get and see the fruits of it, bear the fruits of it, and make sure that my team who's believing in me are successful in their endeavors. So that's how I get up every day and I keep working and I do stuff as well. I lose my midnight sleep thinking about my team and thinking about my customers. That's it. These are the only two things that is always in my head: my team and my customers. What do I need to do to keep them happy? How do I provide value to them? How do I make an impact with my customers? At the same time, how do I take care of the team that's helping me do those things? Right, helping the team achieve those. How the team is the one that is achieving those vision. Now, how do I help them? How do I make sure that they're able to get the best out of all the time and sacrifices they've made in this company? So that's what gets me going every day.
And with a lot of founders, before they have their first founding experience, they think of it as this really fun experience when there's a lot of like news on VCs giving out money and like people getting into YC and they're like, yeah, I'll do it too. It seems so fun. But they don't realize that this journey is um, you kind of you're deciding to play a game, which is probably the best game there is to start a company. Like you're gonna grow, you're gonna learn every single day, but at the same time they don't realize just how difficult it's going to be. If you were talking to Raghu, the younger version of you, you know, the person with maybe less experience, less prepared, um, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was in the same boat. I was like, there's a concept in Indian cricket called hit out or get out, like do fast and go big or go broke kind of a thing. And my idea was, like as you said, I've seen so many companies building the most basic aspect and exiting out in great numbers, right? Like, and I was like, you know what, I can do the same thing. Like, I'm a technologist, I can build something that is simple, easy to use, and exit out fast. And then the reality stuck is that that's not the case, right? It's some people are luck, and I would not just say luck. They're smart. They know how to find area of opportunity and how to execute on that and exit out in a faster phase. And I realized that I'm not that guy, right? I realized that I am picking problems that takes time to solve. It's a long game, and that stuck me. And I realized that it was like a freight train hitting me. Like, this is not that. This is a long game, and that started bolstering, as I said, right? As I started hiring the team, and I saw the passion and everything, and that also changed me as a human being. I was like, now we are in it on the long run. Let's figure out. Let's execute as one team and get there. So it's a learning, and actually, I'm happy that this is what I'm doing, because I I'm sure after post included, whatever be is an exit or an acquisition, whatever be it, post included, I'll be a better human being because I've learned a lot. So that's what matters to me.
And how would your closest friends describe you?
Ah, so I would say I don't bring work home. So and CEO is a lonely place. It ends with me, and that's about it. So my friends, when I'm with my friends, is more, I'm chill. I'm listening to them. I'm more of a listener, right? And what that makes is it helps build trust fast. So my friends, they trust me a lot. They Everybody confides stuff to me, and because I'm a well, I keep listening and listening. So that's what they say, right? So what on my birthday, we had a toast, and my wife asked my friends, okay, tell me something about this dude. Why do you like this dude, right? And the unanimous answer was that he is easy to talk to, he does not judge people, and he's there when we need his help. So these are three things, right? And that is the traits I'm always with, and I don't expect the same from others, but at least the goal is be there at the moment. When you're with somebody, spend that moment with them. Like, don't get distracted, and if they're talking, listen to them. So that's very, very critical. Be a good listener, and be there when they need help, because being there when wins are there is easy, but being there when things go wrong is not easy. And I would attribute that to my wife. My wife, she has taught me a lot with respect to that. She's with me when things were not easy. She's playing a game for the long run, and I see that, and I learn a lot from her. So yeah, I have to give kudos to her for teaching me all these traits.
How much does her support, like how big of a role did it play in your formation and success?
Yeah. So she she's not a controller, right? She's like, is your life, your career, you decide what you want to do, and I trust that you'll take the right decisions. So she's that kind of a person. And so from help and everything standpoint, I mean, she plays, I would say, 100% of the role. She's helping, she's there, she gives me both mental support too, which is very, very critical. And uh, and at the same time, I don't want to abuse that support, right? Initially, I was like, every problem that I face, I used to go to her and I used to vent out. And eventually what ends up happening is the other person starts getting the brunt of it, right? Because now they are like, oh, how should I help him? Like, Raghu's venting out to me, should I help him? What should I do, right? They feel helpless. So I realized that it's very critical to understand the balance. To how do you balance it out is very important. That's what I learned over the last couple of years. And now we're getting there. We're still learning. I'm still like, sometimes I want to vent stuff out. I'm like, you know what, she already had a long day, let me not just mess her day up by adding my challenges. So she does the same thing too. She's a business owner, and so we both are business owners. And now when she has a bad day, she also knows how much to balance out and how much to talk, how much not to talk, and all the good stuff. So we have a pretty healthy uh, way of supporting each other and being there for each other.
It made me think. I remember I was talking to Court Lawrencini, and he gave me the best advice, which has transformed my relationship with my wife. It was like, whenever your wife comes to you with an issue, it's good to ask, do you want one of the three H? Do you want me to hear you out? Do you want me to hug you? Or do you want me to help you? And that will change like the tendency of relationship, because sometimes they just want to be heard. And we as men were like, so here's what you need to do. You need to stop doing that, change that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, right? So, I mean, for me, out of the three H, the first H is compulsory. You have to listen. Hearing is you have to do it. There's a basic courtesy that you have to show to your spouse. Yes. Next is hug, and healing it is up to what they want. I think hearing and hugging is two basic things you got to do, irrespective of whether they want it or not. You just do it. That's it. Done. Now, helping is a different thing. If they don't want it, they don't do it. If they want it, yeah, I can help them out. I hear you.
And what are you most excited about for the next 10 years?
Yeah. So I want to see with included. I mean, I'm going to be very specific with included because this is my baby right now. You're trying to figure out how to scale and how to get there. It's all about impact, as I said, right? I'm super excited to see how my company can have a widespread impact for employees within the organization, and that is the goal for included, is having that widespread impact. Like nothing should be surprising for an employee. That is a goal, right? So when things are surprising, that's when you get heartburn. Like you have you see Glassdoor rating go down to 3 or 2.5. Is everything is surprising. So nothing should be surprising. If a company is going to lay off, there is a business reason for why a company is laying off. So nothing should be surprising. Their employees should know that, you know what, this is happening, and this is the criteria we're doing it, so that employees can be prepared for the next whatever they need to do next, right? Just doing everything out of blue and then causing that heartburn and churn is not good. Goal is, it's not an easy place to get there. That's a utopia. How do you get there, right? So that's the goal with included, is that there is business side of the house where business needs to run, and there's metrics and everything for that. Also, I want to provide something from the employee side of the house, right, where employees are getting recommendations and suggestions saying that, you know what, you have not upskilled yourself for the last 1.5 2 years. These are the things. This is something that's hot in the market right now. This is where the technology and industry is heading towards. Why don't you upskill yourself? Right. So giving those kind of nudges and helping them out so that they're ready when things change. Because when the industry is changing, the company will have to morph and change to those industry changes. Right. Some companies will change fast. Some companies will change slow. They're late in the adoption game, but they are going to adopt. They are going to change. Now, how do you make sure that your employees are there so that the impact is not that?
And how would you advise? Because right now is a very relevant topic, and we've seen Microsoft laying off like thousands of people, and there were a lot of criticism to their senior level people with after having fired so many people in their divisions, they would give on LinkedIn suggestions like, "Oh, if you're looking for work and you were laid off, just use these prompts to kind of help you deal with psychological and prepare yourself for the next." How would you advise managers and founders to better approach this concept of having to lay off certain divisions for to allow the business to stay afloat? What is the most humane and healthy way to
Yeah.
approach it?
So, I mean, honestly, if you look at companies like Microsoft, even the managers don't know who's getting laid off, right? It's happening, those decisions are happening at very high level, that people don't know who, even if I'm a manager at Microsoft and let's say I'm an M1 manager, I have no idea who in my team is going to get laid off. Those decisions are being made at a higher level. So it's this, so again, right, this phase is a pretty interesting phase because everybody are betting on AI, and companies like Microsoft, that is in the forefront of this AI revolution, they have to show, the proof is in the pudding, right? So they have to show that they are first adopting. It's called dogfooding your own product, right? So they have to show that they are dogfooding their own product, and they have to show the impact of that and efficiency gain to the Wall Street. Otherwise, hey, you're selling a dream, but you're not using it, right? So that
Yeah.
doesn't gel well. So That's the quagmire that Microsoft is in. And that's a quagmire every company is going to be in, right? Me as my company too will be in the same quagmire where when I start seeing reports saying that, you know what, developers are getting 20% efficient, 30% efficient, I'm going to talk to my CEO saying that, you know what, bring in that efficiency, right? So that I can extend my runway or I can deliver products faster and much more valuable sooner, right? So those conversations are bound to happen. And it in the end, the bottom line is how do employees catch on and understand the trends that are happening and educate themselves and be prepared for that, right? If Included does not catch on to the train, we will be non-existent. So me as an employee of Included, I have to catch on to the train too.
Yeah.
Even I'm also running behind a train. Everybody are doing that. So it becomes it becomes a responsibility of the individual to figure that out, right? And that's where I said my vision is when that is happening, Included should be your buddy to understand that this is happening, talk give them the impact of what happens if you don't do it. And because people get they go into this monotonous day of life. I come in, I code, I do my work, and I'm done, right? So nobody thinks out of the box because there's no time to even think out of the box. There's so much workload and everything. So it's very critical for somebody to come in there and help and so that they're prepared for that. So what will happen eventually in the utopian world is that when there's a new technology or new disruption coming, employees are already prepared. They already know it. So either they're upskilled and they found a job somewhere else, and so that they don't see the impact of it. And people who are not doing that will see an impact of it. So unfortunately, that's how the world is. And goal is how do you have the support system to be ahead of the curve as opposed to being a laggard. Right? That stands true for employees, that stands true for organizations as well. If organizations don't innovate fast, they're going to die too.
Well, I want to thank you for giving us the time of day today and wish you the best of luck with your vision of growing Included. Yeah. And thanks so much for coming to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Shamil. This has been an amazing 1 hour with you, and really loved all those questions. And you made me think too for some of those questions which I was not prepared. And I was like, "Wow, this is a great question." Mingles was one of them, and really enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, I hope we can jam more later.
Likewise.